The NBA free agency period opens in just a couple of hours. The trade market should be ripe and ready. If the Sixers want to improve their team, it's going to have to be through the trades. They do not have a lot of money to spend. They are capped out in terms of the high-profile free agents. But do they have another move up their sleeve? Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio, joins us right now to take a look at free agency and what could be happening around the NBA. The association, Mitch, taking center stage in the middle of late in the summer here with free agency, and there's seemingly going to be a lot happening in just a couple hours. Pal, how you been?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, Mike. Yeah, it looks like as everybody knows, Kyle Lowry looks like he's going to do a sign and trade to go to Miami to be with his guy Jimmy Butler. They're very close. Kyle is the godfather of Jimmy's daughter. My understanding, I just learned that last night, and they've talked for years about joining up forces. So here they finally have a chance to do it. And it'll be a sign and trade for Dragic and Precious Chichua, and look for Dragic maybe for Toronto to spin Dragic off to play with his fellow Slovenian Luka Doncic in Dallas. And that's where Philadelphia comes into play, perhaps, because, if those type of moves are made and Toronto's looking for a point guard, well, you know what? A lot of people think that there'll be a call made by Daryl Morey to see if he can move Ben Simmons up that way in a package. Siakam, maybe. His name's been out there. He doesn't get along with Nick Nurse. He looks like he's going to be on the move. If not Philly, maybe Portland has been mentioned. You get other maybe assets from Dallas, a Tim Hardaway Jr. to go to Philly in that. I don't know. I mean, that's just speculation, but there's going to be a lot of ripple effects off the one move with Kyle Lowry because, he's one guy who Philly, New Orleans, Dallas, the Knicks wanted, and Miami's going to come out the winner on that front.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Lowry ends up going down to Miami with Jimmy Butler there, that puts Miami right back at the top of the Eastern Conference, you would think, and then all the ripple effects.
No, it doesn't.
No?
No, it doesn't. No. Kyle Lowry? I mean, Brooklyn.
Well, Lowry and Butler together, I mean.
No, I
not better than Brooklyn.
Not better than Brooklyn, not better than Milwaukee. We'll see what Philadelphia does.
All right. So,
Kyle Lowry was very good a couple of years ago as the number 2 guy to Kawhi. And Jimmy Butler, I don't know what happened to him last year. He was great in the bubble. Maybe outside the bubble he's not as good. It's not a real needle mover for me. Miami will be better.
Yeah.
No doubt. But they still need size. They don't have any size.
True.
And they get crushed. I mean, if they're playing a big team, they're going to get crushed. So, it makes Miami better, no doubt.
Yeah.
And then we'll see what else Pat Riley does. I mean, Pat Riley gets swept out of the first round. Their big move's coming. I think this talk about pairing, putting DeRozan into Miami for the mid-level exception, I think DeMar DeRozan can do a little better than that.
Did see that as well, yeah.
The Knicks can give him a ton of money. Oh, there's all this talk about that. I think DeMar DeRozan is still a quality player, even though everybody bags on him because he doesn't shoot threes. He averaged 7 assists last year, so even though he's not a point guard, I'm sure Tom Thibodeau would like him to run their offense, maybe in New York. And you know what? He could easily get $60, $70 million. I don't think he has to start settling at this point for the mid-level exception.
All right, Mitch, obviously you mentioned they're not better than Brooklyn, not better than Milwaukee. We'll see what Philadelphia does. We know they're trying to move Ben Simmons. It sounds like Ben is on board with it, meaning, he's okay with getting traded at this point. But is that all the Sixers are trying to do to improve this team? Because they don't have a lot of ways they could do it. There's not a lot of roads that they can get better outside of the trade market.
Well, in terms of Ben, I think it's Rich Paul who wants him to a new market, clutch. And I don't know. Haven't heard a lot. Now, is Portland going to do something with Lillard? Until Lillard tells them that he wants out, I don't know. And then Stephen A. Smith reported on ESPN that Lillard, the market he has identified if he does want to move, is New York. So we'll see about that. I've also heard that Philadelphia is looking to shop in Tobias Harris, which is something that you would expect. I mean, 3 years left at $120 million or whatever it is. It's a lot of money for a third option. I don't know who would take him on. Be one of those type of deals where you might have to take back another contract of a guy who's suspect and add some sweeteners. And I think Daryl Morey, and that's a guy who obviously is not a Daryl Morey signing. So I think Daryl Morey will be, and everybody thinks he's asking for the world, a king's ransom. What Houston got for Harden, what Oklahoma said he got for Paul George. We'll see if he can pull it off. If not, he can always come off his demands. But we'll see. But I don't think there's nobody that I've talked to in the league who thinks that Ben Simmons is going to be on that team at training camp.
Which obviously goes back to what they're asking for. At some point, Mitch, do they want to move him to the point where they will just take the best offer after they get all the offers and say, all right, this is what it is. We got to make a decision. Or are they content on saying, if I don't get the best offer, I'll just keep him?
Well, who knows? That's up to Daryl Morey. He operates as a solo, so nobody really knows. But the speculation around the league is that he will make a move. He will get Ben Simmons off his roster before the season. So I think a lot of people will be surprised if he doesn't.
Yeah.
But we'll see. I mean, you never know. So that's one of the things that obviously everybody's talking about with the Sixers. Would Toronto take Ben Simmons up there? I mean, the thing about Ben Simmons that other team, people in Philadelphia have to remember is that there are teams like not great markets that are not free agent destinations who look at a guy like Ben Simmons who's got, 4 years left on his deal?
4, yep.
And they take a guy on like that despite the fact that he's got some problems in terms he doesn't want to shoot. Why? Because they're not players. They can't be players in the free agent market.
Right.
There are teams like Minnesota, Cleveland, Sacramento. You wouldn't even get Ben Simmons wouldn't even take your phone call when he became a free agent. But here you trade for him. And this has been going on for years in the NBA, where teams like Sacramento try to do that because they know they have some certainty involving a guy's contract, and they know that they can't go out and make the big splash in free agency. They'd never get a guy like Ben Simmons.
Totally agree with that premise. Totally agree with that premise, Mitch, is that these middle market teams would take Simmons in a heartbeat because they can't draw free agents there, so they'll trade for a guy like that.
Goes back to why did LeBron? People are talking about Damian Lillard thinks, and this goes back to Stephen A. Smith's report, that Damian Lillard thinks that he could come to the New York market if he forces his way out and they trade him to New York. I know it's a bunch of ifs, but he would have in New York he could get the type of players that won't go to Portland. Well, go back to what happened with LeBron James in his first go-round in Cleveland when he came up into the league. He found out he couldn't get guys to come to Cleveland, so he had to leave.
Yeah.
That's what they face in these small markets, not just mid-sized markets. We're talking small markets. So, yeah, that's why a guy like Ben Simmons would be attractive. Well, aside from the fact that he does a lot of good things on the court, we concentrate on the one area he has big problems in. There's a lot of other areas he's great at.
Mitch Lawrence, SiriusXM NBA Radio. Is there any anticipation that Chris Paul and Kawhi Leonard leave their situations? They've opted out, but are they going to leave those situations?
No, I don't think so. I think that'd be the big surprise. The big surprise would be Kawhi leaves the Clippers, Paul leaves Phoenix. Now, the interesting thing is going to be Robert Sarver. Is he going to pinch pennies the Suns owner and force Chris Paul to take a bad, deal? Who knows? I mean, this is a pivotal point for the Suns because Chris Paul did something there that hadn't been done in a long time, getting his team to the finals, making Booker, teaching Booker and Ayton the ropes in terms of turning guys who were basically perennial losers, helping them figure things out, getting to the playoffs, making a deep run. Yeah, I know. We all know that they took advantage of some injuries along the way, which a lot of teams do. So I think Chris Paul is back. But, Sarver can't mess around here and nickel and dime Chris Paul. Plenty of teams would love to have Chris Paul. I mean, Willie Green, who's the new coach in New Orleans, Chris Paul describes him not just as a former teammate on the Clippers, but as a brother. He wouldn't help out Zion Williamson and Brandon Ingram, teach them the ropes too.
Yeah.
I'm sure he wouldn't want to, I'm sure he wants to stay there because for him, it's certainty, Mike.
Yeah.
He knows what he has in Booker and Ayton.
Oh, you're
he
right.
He knows that if they can add, I saw this the other day. I think it was last night. Dwight Howard's talking about going back to play for the Lakers.
Right.
You know who Phoenix needs to get? Dwight Howard. They need more size.
Yeah, you're right.
They got crushed in the paint, not just by, and Antetokounmpo and the Greek Freak went nuts against them in the finals. They need to somehow get that plane to land in Phoenix and not in L.A. because Dwight Howard's ready to run over and play for the Lakers again. That's a guy like Phoenix needs. So they need to do things. But it all starts with Chris Paul. If they were to lose Chris Paul, that'd be a disaster. It'd be a bad public relations hit for them. It'd be a terrible loss on the court, off the court. And in terms of Kawhi, he's the great unknown. But he left a great situation in Toronto. They probably could have tried to do it again, right? just brought everybody back, but he didn't want to go. He wanted to go home. He had got the right to be a free agent. He decides to go home. And if anybody thought, well, maybe Kawhi doesn't think this team can be any good, they actually did okay without him in terms of the playoffs. I mean, Utah couldn't get a game off them without Kawhi. They won the last 2 games of that series, I believe. And then in the next series, they finally make the conference finals for the first time without Kawhi, and they got 2 games off of Phoenix. So from all standpoints, money, where he is, the type of team he has in terms of their ceiling, yeah, you could think that Kawhi Leonard, I mean, that would be a shock for him to, like, all of a sudden say, yeah, I'm going to go play for the New York. I'm going to play for Tom Thibodeau, who treats every regular season game like Game 7, while I basically like to take games off. Does that work? Does that fit? Does that make sense?
We'll leave with this, with veteran NBA reporter from SiriusXM NBA Radio, Mitch Lawrence. They traded Westbrook. Does that mean Beal will want out?
They have to figure out a way to keep Bradley Beal happy and in the fold. And guys like Kuzma and Harrell, the guys they got from the Lakers aren't going to get it done, I don't think. I give them credit for moving out of off of Westbrook's contract. It's amazing how many teams with real big-time stars, Harden in Houston, Durant in Oklahoma City, George, Oklahoma City, their teams traded Russell Westbrook out of there and left the other stars. There must be something going on. Guys don't want to play, or they don't have the success with whatever it is. He dominates the ball. He makes the wrong decisions. But you know what I'm saying. I mean, look at his track record. The guy's been traded all the time. I mean, he's moved around as a free agent more than anybody I can remember, but except Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose is a product of really injury more than anything else. But it is amazing. And so I know it's the shiny new object. People think the Lakers are going to be great. They have nobody who can make a three-point shot. And they got to figure out how it's all going to work with their big three. Don't put anything past LeBron, but he's got to stay healthy. Still have Anthony Davis. But, going home to L.A. might be great for Russell Westbrook. I don't know how good it is for the Lakers unless they can bring in some guys who can knock down some shots from the outside.
Mitch Lawrence, everybody, at Mitch_Lawrence. And, of course, the NBA free agency just a couple of hours from getting underway. We'll see if Daryl Morey can pull the strings and get something here to change the complexion of this roster. And free agency should be very interesting. Mitch, it's always a pleasure, my friend.
Mike, thanks. Thanks for having me. Take care and enjoy free agency.